The locks clicked behind me. The sound of the lock turning was louder than I remembered. A sharp click, final, cold, and deliberate. For a moment, I stood there on the porch, holding a grocery bag full of my mother's favorite things: jasmine tea, mangoes, a new blanket she'd mentioned needing. The porch light cast a soft orange glow on the doormat that said, "Home sweet home." Only now, it wasn't my home anymore. I rang the bell once, then twice. No answer. Through the frosted glass, I could see the shadows move inside, the blur of my brother's shape, my mother's smaller one following behind. But the door didn't open. The curtain beside it fluttered slightly, then stilled. "Mom?" My voice cracked as I said it. "It's me. Can you open up?" Silence. Just the faint hum of the streetlight and a barking dog somewhere down the block. That's when I realized she'd really done it. She'd changed the locks. And this house, the one I bought for her with my first real money, the one I called her dream home, didn't belong to me anymore, not even in memory. I set the grocery bag down by the door, feeling my chest tighten. How did we get here? A few months ago, she'd called me her miracle child. Now, I was standing outside her door, uninvited, unwanted, and freezing under a light I'd paid for. I used to think love meant giving everything you had, no limits, no questions, no expectations. Turns out, love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's a slow kind of self-destruction. My name's Daniel. I grew up watching my mom do the impossible. She raised 2 kids on a cashier's salary after my dad left, me, the older one, and my brother, Ethan, the golden child. Mom always said I was the quiet one, the one who didn't ask for much. She said it with pride, but sometimes it felt like she meant I didn't need as much love either. Still, I adored her. Every night after her shift, I'd stay up just to hear her keys jingle at the door. She'd drop her bag, kick off her shoes, and smile when she saw me waiting on the couch. "Still awake? You'll be tired tomorrow," she'd scold gently, pressing a kiss to my forehead. That smell, a mix of laundry detergent and cheap diner coffee, is something I'll never forget. It was the smell of sacrifice. When I graduated high school, she cried like I'd won a war. We didn't have much, but she somehow made every milestone feel golden. So when I got my first real job in tech, and the paychecks started coming, I made her a promise. "One day, I'll buy you a house. One you don't have to share, one you can decorate however you like." She laughed then, saying, "You just make sure you're happy first, baby. Houses can wait." But I meant it. Every word. Years later, after promotions and endless overtime, I finally did it. A 3-bedroom colonial-style house with a garden and a big porch swing, the kind she used to point at while riding the bus home. When I took her there for the first time, she cried before even stepping inside. "Danny, this can't be real," she whispered. "It's real," I said, "and it's yours." I let her move in first, even before I finished moving out of my apartment. I wanted her to settle in, feel safe. It felt right, like the roles had reversed. The mother who once tucked me in every night would finally rest easy. For the first few weeks, things were perfect. Every Sunday, I'd drive over, mow the lawn, fix whatever needed fixing. She'd make breakfast, pancakes, the fluffy kind with too much butter, and Ethan would drop by when he could. I thought we were happy. I thought we were finally family again. But then, small things started changing. The tone in her voice when she mentioned Ethan. The way she'd say, "Your brother works so hard, Danny," like I didn't. Or how she'd start leaving my texts unanswered, even when I was on my way over. It wasn't much at first, just distance. I told myself she was adjusting to the new place, that she deserved privacy. But one night, when I dropped by unannounced, I saw Ethan's car parked in the driveway, and through the window, a flash of him sitting in my chair at the dinner table. Mom was laughing at something he said, and for the first time, I felt like a guest outside my own gift. I brushed it off. Maybe I was being sensitive. But over the next few weeks, the invitations stopped completely. When I'd ask about visiting, she'd say, "Oh, honey, I'm tired today," or "Ethan's helping me with something, maybe next week." Still, I didn't question her. I wanted to be the good son, the one who never complains. Then came the call, short, sharp, unforgettable. "Danny," she said, "we need to talk about the house." Her voice was different, stiff, rehearsed. And that was the beginning of the end, the first cracks in the dream. When Mom called that night, her tone wasn't the usual soft warmth I was used to. It was clipped, like she was trying to sound professional, detached. I could hear the faint clinking of dishes in the background, the TV murmuring low. "Danny, we need to talk about the house." I smiled, even though something in my chest tightened. "Sure, Mom. What about it?" "It's complicated," she said after a pause. "I just think we should be clear about some things." "Clear?" I repeated, half laughing. "Mom, it's your house. I told you that. You don't need to worry." "No," she cut in, her voice sharp. "It's not my house, Danny. You keep saying that, but legally, it's under your name. What if something happens to you? Where would I go?" I went quiet. I hadn't thought of it that way. She continued, a bit more hesitantly. "I just think maybe we should transfer it. Make sure it's in my name. Just so I'm protected." Her words echoed in my head head long after we hung up. At first, I thought she was just scared, maybe anxious about security. After all, she'd struggled most of her life. Owning something must have felt fragile to her. But part of me also felt uneasy. There was a strange certainty in her tone, like she'd rehearsed the whole thing with someone else before calling me. That weekend, I drove to the house, planning to talk it out face to face. When I got there, the driveway was already full, Ethan's car, as usual. I rang the bell, and he opened the door, wearing one of my old sweatshirts. "Hey, bro," he said, grinning, blocking the doorway slightly. "Didn't know you were coming." "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just came to see Mom. Is she home?" He glanced over his shoulder before answering. "Yeah, but she's tired. We were just going over some paperwork. You can come in if you want, but don't start any drama, okay?" That last line hit harder than it should have. Drama? What drama? Still, I stepped inside. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and something baking in the oven. Mom was at the kitchen table, reading a stack of documents, her glasses perched low on her nose. "Hey, sweetheart," she said without looking up. "Didn't expect you today." I smiled and walked over to kiss her cheek, but she didn't meet my eyes. "What paperwork are you looking at?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "Oh, just insurance things," she said quickly, shuffling the pages. "Nothing big." Ethan leaned back against the counter, smirking slightly. "Yeah, we're just making sure everything's in order. You know, Mom's not getting any younger." He said it like a joke, but I could feel the jab under the words. I wanted to ask more, but the air was already heavy. So I sat down, tried to make small talk, but the rhythm was gone. The warmth was gone. When I left that day, Mom barely looked up. Ethan walked me out to the porch, his voice low. "You know, you don't have to show up every week. Mom's got me here now. I can take care of things." There was something smug in the way he said it. Something final. I forced a laugh. "That's great, Ethan. Just, don't forget who actually bought the house, okay?" His grin didn't fade. "Oh, we won't forget, Danny. Don't worry." I drove home that night with a pit in my stomach. Something was shifting, something I couldn't name yet. Over the next month, the distance grew sharper. Mom stopped answering my calls. When I texted, I'd get short replies hours later. "Busy today. Don't worry about me. Ethan's handling it." That phrase, "Ethan's handling it," became her favorite. One Sunday, I showed up anyway. I brought her a new set of garden tools and a lavender plant, hoping to make her smile. But when I reached the front door, it was locked. Not just the handle, but the deadbolt. I knocked. No answer. Then I heard laughter inside. My mom's voice. My brother's. Through the window, I saw them at the table, the same one I'd helped her pick out. They were eating dinner together, and she looked happy. I waited outside for 10 minutes before she finally came to the door. Her smile was polite, almost like I was a neighbor dropping by unexpectedly. "Oh, Danny, you should have called first. We were just having dinner." "I did," I said quietly. "You didn't pick up." "Oh, well, you know how I get when I'm cooking," she said with a light laugh that didn't reach her eyes. I held up the bag in my hand. "I brought you something. For the garden." "That's sweet," she said, taking it without looking. "I'll open it later." Behind her, Ethan called out, "Mom, food's getting cold." She glanced over her shoulder, then back at me. "Danny, let's talk another time, okay? I'm just tired tonight." Before I could answer, she closed the door, gently, but firmly. I stood there again on that porch, realizing I was starting to look like someone who didn't know when to stop showing up. The next day, I got an email from a real estate lawyer. It was short, formal, and cold. "Per your mother's request, please provide the necessary documentation to transfer property ownership. Attached is a preliminary draft." I stared at the screen, my heartbeat in my ears. My mother had gone behind my back, and involved lawyers. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just fear or confusion. It was betrayal. That night, I called her. No answer. I called again. Still nothing. Then Ethan texted me. "Mom doesn't want to talk right now. You're stressing her out. Let her be." I stared at the message for a long time, and I realized I wasn't losing my house. I was losing my mother. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, the only light coming from my laptop screen. The email from the lawyer open again and again as if the words would change. "Per your mother's request." Those 4 words cut deeper than anything. My mother, the woman I worked myself sick for, the woman I wanted to protect from ever feeling small again, had turned to someone else to take from me, quietly, like it was nothing. By sunrise, my coffee had gone cold, and my heart felt heavier than it had in years. I told myself I wasn't going to make a scene. I just needed the truth. So, I printed the email, got in my car, and drove to the house I bought, the one that didn't feel like mine anymore. The neighborhood was peaceful, the kind of place where people waved from their driveways. Kids on bikes, sprinklers hissing over manicured lawns. I'd once imagined growing old here with Mom, her tending to flowers, me bringing her groceries every weekend. But that morning, as I parked at the curb, everything looked staged. Like a life I no longer belonged to. Ethan's car was there, as always. Music was playing faintly from inside. When I knocked, he opened the door, door, shirtless, holding a cereal bowl. His smirk was the same as ever. "Oh, look who finally decided to drop by. Where's Mom?" I asked. "She's in the kitchen. But she's busy, man. Maybe come back later." I pushed past him before he could finish. Mom was sitting at the table, sorting through envelopes. When she looked up, there was a flash of guilt, quick, like a blink, and then the practiced calm returned. "Danny, you can't just barge in like this. I got an email from a lawyer," I said quietly, holding the paper out. "Can you tell me what this is?" Her eyes flicked to it, then back to her teacup. "It's nothing dramatic," she said. "I just want to make sure the house is secure in case something happens to you. That's all." "That's all?" I repeated, trying not to raise my voice. "Mom, that's not a small thing. That's ownership. You're asking me to sign over the house." She sighed, setting the cup down. "Danny, you know I've never asked you for anything. Not once. But this is my home. I can't rest easy knowing it's not really mine." I shook my head. "You wouldn't even be here if I hadn't bought it for you." Ethan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, that smug expression never leaving his face. "Bro, relax. She's just trying to feel safe. You act like she's stealing something." I turned to him. "Stay out of this, Ethan." "Oh, come on," he scoffed. "You think you're some hero because you threw money at Mom? You didn't buy love, man. You just bought walls." His words landed hard. Not because they were true, but because I could see Mom's silence agreeing with him. I looked back at her. "Is that what you think too?" She didn't answer, just stared down at the table, her fingers tracing the rim of her teacup. "Mom," when she finally spoke, her voice was soft. "Ethan's right. You've changed, Danny. Ever since you got that job, you act like everything you do is a favor. Like we owe you for helping us." I stepped back, stunned. "A favor? Mom, I bought you this house because you worked your whole life for me. Because you deserved it. Then why can't you just give it to me?" She snapped suddenly, her voice shaking. "Why does it have to stay in your name? Why do you need control over everything?" Control. The word echoed like thunder. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about protection or fear. It was about pride. My mother didn't want a gift. She wanted ownership. And my brother, he wanted access to it. I walked to the window, trying to steady my breathing. The garden outside, the one I'd helped her plant, was in full bloom. Hydrangeas, lavender, roses. It looked perfect. But inside this house, everything was rotting. "Mom," I said quietly, turning back to her. "Did Ethan ask you to do this?" Her eyes flickered, just once. "It was enough. Don't you dare accuse your brother," she snapped. "He's been here every day helping me. You barely come around anymore. Because every time I try, you push me away." Ethan's laugh was short and cruel. "Man, you really don't get it, do you? She doesn't need you hovering. You think she's some helpless woman you have to save." "She is my mother," I said, my voice breaking. "All I ever wanted was to make her life easier." "Well," he said, picking up his bowl again, "mission accomplished. She's doing great without you." I turned to her one last time. "Mom, please, tell me this isn't what it looks like." She wouldn't meet my eyes. Instead, she said the one thing I never expected to hear from her. "Maybe you should take some time away, Danny. Let things cool off. You're making everyone uncomfortable." Everyone. As if this was about more than just us. I stared at her, realizing there was nothing left to say. The woman who once worked double shifts just to keep us fed, was now asking me to leave the house I'd bought for her. So, I did. I walked out the front door, down the steps I'd built, past the garden I'd planted. And as I reached my car, I heard the door close behind me, that same sharp click as before. Only this time, I knew it wasn't temporary. Or days. I avoided calls, avoided work, avoided thinking. But betrayal has a way of echoing, even in silence. A week later, a friend from the real estate agency called me. "Hey, Danny, weird question. Did you authorize your mom to list your property? I saw your name on a pre-listing form." I froze. "Wait, what?" "Yeah," he said. "Someone from her side reached out, said the house was being transferred soon and they wanted to get the process ready." That's when I knew they weren't just trying to take it. They were planning to sell it. The breaking point. I didn't drive straight there this time. I sat in my car for nearly an hour, staring at the real estate form my friend had emailed me. My hands shook as I held it. The agent's name, the address, even my own signature, faked. Ethan's name wasn't on it, of course. He was too careful for that. But Mom's was. And that broke something in me. It wasn't about the house anymore. It was about trust, the one thing I thought we'd always had, no matter how much life twisted around us. When I finally pulled up to the driveway, I noticed something new, a "for sale" sign leaning against the porch wall. It wasn't planted yet, but it was there, waiting, like they were just days away from erasing me completely. I rang the bell once. No answer. I knocked again, louder. Finally, Ethan opened the door, phone in hand, clearly irritated. "You really can't take a hint, can you?" "I'm not here for you," I said. "Where's Mom?" He rolled his eyes. "She's resting. And before you start, she doesn't need another one of your guilt trips. You've done enough." I stepped inside anyway. "You forged my signature, Ethan. You and Mom are trying to to sell the house behind my back. He froze for just a second, then smirked. That's a serious accusation. Bro, got proof? I do, I said, holding up the paper. A friend from the agency called me. He glanced at it but didn't look scared. That's when I realized he didn't think I'd actually fight back. You think anyone's gonna believe you over her? He said, leaning closer. She's the mother who raised 2 boys alone. You're the ungrateful son who thinks money makes him a hero. Something in me snapped. I wasn't going to let him rewrite our story. I pushed past him into the living room, and that's when I saw her. Mom was standing by the fireplace, already dressed, her hair neatly done. She wasn't resting. She'd been waiting. Danny, she said, her voice clipped. What are you doing here? I got a call from a real estate agent, I said. You're trying to sell the house, aren't you? She didn't answer. She just looked at Ethan, as if deciding how much to admit. Mom, I pleaded, you can't do this. The house isn't yours to sell. Finally, she said quietly, I deserve to live somewhere I can call mine. Not something that feels like your charity. Charity? I repeated, stunned. Mom, this was never about me. I bought this for you because you said it was your dream. Because I love you. Love doesn't come with paperwork, she said sharply. It doesn't come with conditions. I stared at her, trying to breathe. So this is what you call love? Changing the locks? Forging my name? Letting him, I pointed at Ethan, run your life again? Watch your tone, Ethan cut in. You're talking to Mom. You watch yours, I snapped. You've done nothing but take from her your entire life. And now you're convincing her to throw away the one good thing she has left. He stepped closer, voice low. You really think you're the good guy here? You bought her a house so you could feel like a savior. But when she stopped needing you, you couldn't handle it. I wanted to hit him. I really did. But I didn't. Instead, I took a deep breath and pulled my phone from my pocket. Mom, I said, my voice trembling but steady, I'm recording this. Her eyes widened. Danny, don't you dare. I need proof, I said quietly. Because if you go through with this sale, it's fraud. And I'm not going to jail for a crime I didn't commit. Ethan scoffed. You wouldn't dare turn on your own mother. But I didn't answer him. Because the truth was, I didn't want to. I didn't want any of this. I wanted my mom back. The woman who used to hum while cooking, who'd kiss my forehead before I left for school, who once told me I was her pride and joy. But that woman wasn't standing in front of me anymore. The silence between us stretched. Then, slowly, she spoke. Danny, maybe it's best if you just walk away. You have your life. Let me have mine. Walk away? I repeated. From my own house? From the past, she said softly. We've both made mistakes. But I can't keep living under your shadow. Her words stung, but beneath them, I heard something else. Fear. Maybe not of me, but of what admitting she was wrong would mean. I nodded slowly. All right, Mom. If that's really what you want, I'll walk away. I turned toward the door, every step heavier than the last. Ethan muttered something behind me. I didn't catch it. I didn't care. But before I stepped outside, I said one last thing. Mom, when the papers come through, and the money's gone, and you realize what he's done to you again, I'll still be your son. But I won't be your fool. Then I left. The next month was chaos. The real estate listing went public, but it didn't last long. Turns out, the agency flagged the document as fraudulent. The legal department stepped in. My friend from the firm reached out again, this time with news that made my stomach twist. Danny, the house transfer attempt's under review. Looks like your brother used a notary who's already under investigation. It all came crashing down after that. The lawyer called. So did the bank. The case went from quiet manipulation to public embarrassment within weeks. Mom's name was in the complaint, but she wasn't charged. Not really. Ethan took the brunt of it, and when he realized there'd be consequences, he disappeared. I didn't see Mom for nearly 3 months after that. Then, one afternoon, she showed up at my apartment. Her eyes were tired. She looked smaller somehow, like the fight had drained her. She held an envelope in her hand. It's the house papers, she said softly. Your name's back on everything. I didn't take it right away. I just stared at her, unsure of what to feel. She sighed, her voice trembling. You were right, Danny. I let him use me. Again. I thought if I had something of my own, maybe I'd finally stop feeling like I failed. Her words cracked halfway through, and suddenly she looked less like the woman who'd hurt me, and more like the mother who raised me. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I was proud, and stupid, and I thought pushing you away would prove something. I finally reached out and took the envelope, but I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because forgiveness, I've learned, doesn't come in a single sentence. It comes in time. In silence. In small, careful steps toward healing. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator inside, and the wind slipping through the trees. Then, she said quietly, you're embarrassing me, standing out here like this. Go stay with your friends. I need space. Space. That word felt crueler than any slap. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she wasn't seeing me anymore. Not as her son who worked 2 jobs to buy her this home. Not as the child who once fixed her old car with duct tape and prayer. She saw me as a threat. A reminder that she owed me something. something she couldn't return. I just wanted to make you happy, I said softly. That's all I ever wanted. She didn't answer. She just closed the door. The click of that lock, this time from the inside, echoed in my chest like thunder. I sat in my car outside the house for nearly an hour, staring at the porch light she'd forgotten to turn off. It was the same light she used to leave on for me when I came home late from my night shifts. Now it burned for her, and not for me. I didn't cry that night. I just drove aimlessly through town, past the diner where she and I used to share Sunday breakfasts, past the park where she taught me to ride a bike. Every corner held a piece of us, but none of it belonged to me anymore. By the time the sun began to rise, I found myself parked near the old apartment I grew up in. The place was run down now, graffiti on the walls, trash on the curb, but it was honest. Back then, we didn't have much, but what we had felt real. Now, we had a house, and nothing real left inside it. Over the next few weeks, I tried to call her. She ignored my messages. Sometimes I'd get a short reply, "I'm busy," or worse, "Stop making me feel guilty." I wasn't trying to make her feel guilty. I just wanted her to remember who we were before the house changed everything. One evening, my aunt called me. She sounded hesitant, almost apologetic. "Your mom's been telling people you're unstable," she said. "She said you're trying to control her with money." I felt my chest tighten. She said what? My aunt sighed. "Honey, she's telling everyone you bought the house to hold it over her, that you wanted to move her in so you could play the hero. People at church, they're talking." That night, I sat alone in my small rented room, listening to those words on repeat. Control her with money. Was that really what she thought? I didn't buy her that house to control her. I bought it to thank her. But I realized something painful. Sometimes love that isn't balanced becomes a weapon, even if you never meant it to. Months passed before I saw her again. It was Thanksgiving. My aunt convinced her to come to the family gathering. When I walked into the room, Mom froze. Everyone else fell silent. The tension was thick, like walking through invisible glass. She didn't say hi, didn't hug me, just looked me up and down, then said, "You've lost weight." I forced a small smile. "Yeah, it's been a rough few months." She didn't reply. Instead, she turned to my aunt and started talking about the new furniture she'd bought for the house. The house I paid for. I sat through dinner in silence, picking at my food while laughter bounced around the table. It felt like being a ghost at my own family's meal. At one point, Mom stood to refill her glass. That's when she whispered, "I don't want to argue today. Let's just keep the peace." I looked up at her and said quietly, "I never wanted war, Mom. I just wanted family." She didn't answer, but her hand trembled as she poured her drink. Later that night, as I was leaving, she followed me out to the porch. The air was cold. The moon hung low behind the trees. She hesitated before speaking. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said finally. I needed something that felt like mine. After all these years, people looking at me like I'm nothing. Your success made me feel small. That house made me feel like a guest in my own story." Her words hit me hard. It wasn't hate that drove her. It was shame. Somewhere along the line, she stopped feeling like my mother and started feeling like a failure standing beside her successful son. I swallowed hard. "Mom, you'll always be my story," I said. "I just wish you saw that before you locked the door." She looked at me with wet eyes. For a second, I thought she might hug me, but she didn't. She just whispered, "Take care of yourself," and walked back inside. The door closed behind her. Again. That was the last time we spoke for nearly a year. In that time, I learned to stop waiting for the love I once knew. I learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go of the person who can't love you back in a healthy way. I stopped trying to prove my worth through what I could give. I started building something just for me, a small business, a new apartment, a quieter life. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was standing outside someone else's door. A year can change everything. By the next summer, I had grown used to the silence. It no longer felt heavy, it just existed. Like background noise you forget is there. I had a small apartment above a coffee shop downtown. The walls were thin, and the scent of roasted beans seeped in through the vents each morning. I liked it. It smelled like beginnings. I was working hard, running my small design business, finding clients slowly but steadily. And even though the nights still got lonely, I had peace. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Then one day, I got a call from my cousin, breathless and urgent. "Hey, I don't know if you've seen it, but your mom's house is up for sale." I froze. "What?" "Yeah, it's listed online. She's moving out, apparently. Something about downsizing." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That house, the house I bought for her, was the dream we both used to talk about. The place that was supposed to mean, we made it. And now she was selling it like a piece of furniture. I thanked my cousin and hung up. For hours, I just sat there, staring at my hands. They looked older, stronger. Maybe that was the point. I had given her everything those hands could build, and now it was time to let them rest. Still, curiosity got the better of me. A week later, I drove by the house. The front yard looked different, tidier, but emptier. The garden beds seeds I'd planted for her were gone, replaced by gravel. The porch swing we built together was missing too. There was a "for sale" sign staked in the ground, and standing by it, talking to a realtor, was Mom. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was gray at the edges now, and her smile, when she tried to offer one to the agent, didn't quite reach her eyes. I didn't get out of the car. I just watched. Part of me wanted to drive away, but another part needed closure, so I stepped out. She saw me before I could say anything. Her expression faltered, a flash of guilt, surprise, maybe even relief. "You came," she said quietly. "I guess I did." She looked at the house behind her. "I'm selling it. I can't keep up with the bills anymore. It's too big, too empty." I nodded. "Yeah, I know the feeling." She looked down, twisting the strap of her purse. "I thought it would make me happy," she said, "but it just made me lonely." I didn't say anything. The silence between us wasn't angry anymore. It was just tired. After a long pause, she said, "The realtor said the market's good. Maybe I'll get enough to buy something small. My own place this time." Something about the way she said, "my own place," stung, but I let it go. She needed that, the sense of ownership, even if it meant losing everything else. A few weeks later, the house sold. I saw the new owners move in through a social media post, a young family with 2 kids and a golden retriever. The caption read, "Our dream home." Funny, I thought. That house was once our dream, too. I didn't tell Mom I saw it, but she called me that night, for the first time in months. Her voice was soft. "I moved into an apartment," she said. "It's small, but it's peaceful." I could hear the faint sound of traffic through her window. "That's good," I said. "Peace is worth more than space." There was a long pause. Then she said something I never thought I'd hear. "I was wrong, you know, about everything. You gave me that house out of love, and I turned it into a wall between us. I thought accepting it meant I failed, but really, I just didn't know how to be loved without fear." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Mom, I didn't buy it to make you feel small. I bought it because you made me who I am." "I know that now," she whispered, "and I'm sorry I made you pay for my shame." For a moment, neither of us spoke. And then she said, almost in a laugh, "You know what? This apartment doesn't even have a porch swing. Maybe I'll get one and call it mine this time." We both laughed softly. It wasn't a full reconciliation, but it was something, a small bridge built out of truth instead of guilt. In time, we started talking more often. Not every day, not perfectly, but with honesty. She began to ask about my work, my life. Sometimes she even called just to say goodnight. We didn't bring up the house much, but I think we both knew it taught us something neither of us could have learned any other way. For her, that love without boundaries can suffocate instead of nurture. For me, that love without respect is just sacrifice disguised as devotion. Months later, I visited her apartment for the first time. It was small but cozy. There was a little potted plant by the window, a few framed photos, and, to my surprise, a porch swing on the tiny balcony. She smiled when she saw me notice it. "I told you I'd get one," she said. I sat beside her, and for the first time in years, we didn't need to talk about the past. We just watched the city lights blink below us, 2 people who had finally stopped trying to fix love, and instead learned to live inside it, gently. You know, people talk about love like it's supposed to fix everything, but I think love, real love, isn't about fixing. It's about understanding. When I bought that house, I thought I was giving my mother peace. What I didn't realize was that peace can't be gifted. It has to be chosen. She needed to learn that love doesn't come with conditions, and I needed to learn that boundaries aren't a form of disrespect, they're a form of self-respect. We both made mistakes. We both let pride speak louder than our hearts. But in the end, what mattered wasn't the house, or the money, or the years we lost. It was that, somehow, we found our way back to each other, not as mother and child bound by guilt, but as 2 imperfect souls learning to forgive. Now, whenever I visit her, she insists I sit with her on that little porch swing. We don't talk about what happened. We don't need to. The silence between us has changed. It used to hurt, now it heals. Sometimes, I catch her looking at me with quiet pride, and I realize, maybe this is what love looks like after all the noise fades: quiet, humble, grateful. And if I've learned anything from it all, it's this. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's fear wearing love's face. But love with honesty, space, and respect, that's what finally sets you free. So, tell me, if someone you loved turned your kindness into control, would you walk away, or would you stay, hoping they'd change? Let me know in the comments. And if my story reminded you of something in your own life, share it. Because sometimes, healing starts when we realize we're not alone.